Okay, Morena. I'm Deborah, naturopath at Nourish in Tony, and today's Nat Chat is with Sandra and Patrice from Wellpark College. So welcome, team. I'll do some introductions in a moment. So this week is all about Naturopathic Medicine Week, and it's facilitated by the Naturopaths and Medical Herbalists of New Zealand, NMHNZ, which is the professional body that I belong to. And our focus for this week is about bringing communities together and also how naturopaths can do that. So we're looking at different aspects of naturopathic approach and how we bring our knowledge, where we get our knowledge from, what we do with that in the community and in our clinical practices, and where we go once we've done our education. If you're watching this later on, obviously as you are, just feel free to fire any questions to deborah@nourish.co.nz. There'll be a slide at the end with all the contact details on it. And just a reminder, just to check out any other events that are happening during the Naturopathic Medicine Week. So it's naturopathicmedicineweek.co.nz. There's some online, some around the country, some great recipes are being shared, and quite a bit is about to be uploaded onto the website. We'll get stuff going through the week. So Sandra Storz is the Bachelor of Naturopathic and Herbal Medicine Program Leader at Wellpark College in Auckland. And Patrice Kelly is a naturopath who graduated from Wellpark and is now tutoring at the college. So welcome and thanks for joining me this morning.
Kia ora.
Yeah.
Okay, so the focus of our conversation today is, and I'm just reading because I've written this and it's very clear, why it's important to choose a recognised naturopathic college to study through, also what Wellpark offers, pathways to further study and employment, which is always an ongoing conversation around the NMHNZ board, and anything else that relates to naturopathic education and training. So we're going to start with Sandra. Sandra's going to talk to us a little bit about her role at the college and what that involves.
Sure. Okay, so yeah, I'm the program leader, as said, of the undergraduate Bachelor in Naturopathic and Herbal Medicine, and I've been in that role since 2020 to start, just before the pandemic hit, which was a great experience. However, I've been in a similar role before with Wellpark, so hence having had some experience as part of program leading. And so what I do is essentially overseeing the program, and that includes very much making sure that the students are looked after, so pastoral care, but also in terms of, as with Patrice, bringing tutors on board, overlooking and making sure that they have good onboarding and supporting tutors in their role as teaching to the students. But also very much what I do is to obviously develop the program, as this is always something very important, to remain current and recent, and also to be responsive to stakeholder and student feedback. So that is a very important role that we have been doing more of since the waves of COVID have quieted down, and that's something quite enjoyable as well, to kind of get back on that track and making improvements to the program. So yeah, that's pretty much in a nutshell what I'm doing.
It sounds like a nutshell, but I'm sitting here listening going, okay, so you're bringing tutors on board. That's a big job because you obviously have to select your tutors. So my question there would be, how do you select your tutors? Do you just take them from previous graduates, or do you, or is that program development dependent and then gives you a chance to update your program and things like that? So
yes. So what we're doing, we obviously require tutors that have the correct qualification. And so ideally what that needs to be, that they are holding a higher qualification in what they teach. So we are definitely looking for, preferably for candidates that have the minimum of a bachelor in health science related or in naturopathy. So depending in terms of, we try to have a balance of bringing more naturopaths into academia. So that is something we have been working on in the last few years, and that's been definitely happening, which is really good to see. But it's also the awareness that it's really important to have other health practitioner that have been in academia and to have them on board with their expertise, so for example, in pathophysiology or in pharmacology. So where we also choose health practitioner or people with a health qualification that are very much experts in that particular field. Yeah. So yeah, that is pretty much the process that we kind of handpick a little bit in terms of seeing of graduates who would be interested. And I'm sure Patrice would probably follow on talking about that in a sense, because that's really important to what I think is to have that flow of mentoring graduates in that role of what they can do with their career, as this is definitely a pathway that graduates could consider. And yeah, it would be interesting to hear how Patrice is reflecting on that after 2 years of being with us. Or yeah, it's 2 years. It's actually third year already. That's right. Yes.
So, okay, so that's a nice little segue into hearing from Patrice, who I met some years ago, I think when you must have just been a recent graduate, at the time.
Yeah, I think it was a couple of years after I graduated. I had done a little bit more study after leaving Wellpark as well, so I was a recent graduate. Yeah.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about your role at the school.
So thank you, Deborah. So for those of you that don't know, my name is Patrice. So I studied at Wellpark College from years 2015 to 2017. And then I went on to study an extra year. I went to the New Zealand College of Massage and did a diploma of wellness and relaxation massage. And then I kind of had a year working both in clinic naturopathy and massage. And then I came on to tutor full-time at Wellpark College of Natural Therapy. So I had been working at Wellpark a little bit prior to that. So I first actually started working at Wellpark when I was a student as a gardener. So I was hired to look after the herb gardens, and then that kind of led on to me teaching the herb gardening portion of one of the herbal medicine papers. So there is a gardening portion to the first herbal medicine paper and the second. So I actually started to teach that. And then it organically kind of led on to me doing a little bit more teaching specifically around herbal medicine, because that's my kind of area of real interest and passion. And then, you know, it just felt really right. Like I was like, you know, I really love doing this and something that I really am passionate about. And I seem to be, you know, pretty good at interacting with students and imparting kind of knowledge and ideas to students in ways that's easy to grasp. So that's then after when I was offered full-time work here as a lead tutor. So I do work 5 days a week, and I teach currently a lot of herbal medicine. So I teach herbal medicine in the first year, and then herbal medicine level 6 paper as well. And then I teach a couple of other papers, so research and critical thinking, and a public health paper called Health and New Zealand Society. So all of the courses that I teach, you know, specific to naturopathy, a lot of them kind of more herbal medicine focused. So what I found was that Wellpark was really amazing at kind of that natural mentoring and shifting me and preparing me to do that role of lead tutoring. And they are, you know, really supportive, and, you know, that it kind of is this ethos here of wanting to progress people and lift people up and support them through their careers. So I found that kind of just naturally happened at Wellpark, which was a really great opportunity for me. And so I've been here 3 years now. I really enjoy it.
Fantastic. I mean, it's always a good sign, when your students come back as teachers. You know, it can't be a bad environment if the student wants to continue hanging out in that environment. Why did you choose Wellpark in the first place?
Yeah, that's a good question. If I'm honest, the one thing, because I didn't live in Auckland at all, I'd never really spent much time here, and I was choosing between the 2 colleges in Auckland, and I didn't really know anything about placement and where things were. So the one thing that kind of decided it for me from a distance was the website, which sounds ridiculous, but that's, you know, what people base their decisions on. So it was the website, and then I came up, obviously, to do interview with the program leader at the time, and it just felt really right. Like the campus was in a different space to where it is now, but the gardens were beautiful, and it was in a really nice part of the city.
So where's the campus now?
So the campus now is based in Albany.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so it was in Grey Lynn.
Yeah.
And then I think it was 2017 the move began over to Kawaii in Albany.
Yeah, really interesting, because I actually, this is totally slightly off topic, but kind of not. When I looked at doing my naturopathic study, so I started looking at doing this in 2001. I think I started considering it. So back in the dim, dark ages of doing internet research, when most places didn't have much of a website, and I ended up with pages and pages and pages, and there were quite a number of colleges around New Zealand at that time offering training in naturopathy. And the one that really resonated with me, actually, funnily enough, was Wellpark, and I'd missed the open day, so I rang and I said, look, can I come up and have a look around the college? And whoever I spoke to at the time sort of said, oh, well, why would you want to do that? And I went, well, because I'm thinking about coming to Auckland to study. I live in Wellington. Like, I'm going to have to sell my house, buy a house, move up there. It's a really big deal. So I made this appointment to come and have a look through the college. And I really loved the grounds at the time. I thought it was just a great location. It was slightly awkward to get to for someone from out of Auckland who didn't really know Auckland that well, but I really resonated with it. But then I turned up for this appointment, and the person that I was meant to see had completely forgotten I was coming. So it wasn't the best introduction, but it's really interesting, because I think ever since then I've just kind of been aware that Wellpark is still there, but I wasn't aware that it actually moved to Albany. I don't know how that escaped my notice. So I'm really impressed. So have you got like a custom built facility, or did you move somewhere that was existing, or how did that happen?
So we are at the grounds of what's called Kawaii Pora. So you may have heard of this. So that's at Oatia Valley Road. So it's actually some very big grounds that are lush and very basically full of trees. Yeah. And so we are actually nestled as part. So we are our own unit or kind of entity on that kind of premise under the Wellpark. And so that is separate in terms of the operationals, but we are basically benefiting from that, having that awesome environment. Yeah. And it's interesting, when you come onto the property, you come over a bridge, and then you follow a little path, which is very, very interesting for me. And I heard students say the same. It's actually a really nice transition to go to work, in order to get your mind ready, just to ground yourself a bit and just be in touch with nature, even though we may sit for most of the days. It's one of the things you can do. And the same to detach actually from work when coming back. So yeah, it's very interesting and we have tried to incorporate or make use of this as part of our curriculum. So yeah, Patrice could talk a little bit more about this, how we utilize that opportunity to be actually on a very lush property surrounded by trees.
I think it sounds amazing, actually, because even the Grey Lynn property, like it was in the middle of suburban Auckland, but it still had a really nice vibe about it. Like, I remember the grounds, and I loved the area that it was in. I thought it worked really, really well. I'll be interested to come and see the new one. Anyway, carry on.
Come visit us.
Yeah, we've got an open day, so that may be of interest to the ones that listen to anyway, if that's okay for me to say.
Absolutely. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's coming up on Saturday. I think it's the 15th of October, so that's not far ahead. So yeah, it would be lovely to see you there.
I'd love to come. I'm coming up in November, actually. I might have to try and pop in.
That's right. You're obviously not in Auckland anymore, right? Because I meant to ask you before.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I've never been in Auckland.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm Wellington through and through.
Okay. You love the wind.
No, definitely don't love the wind. I don't think anyone that lives in Wellington loves the wind. So going back to the campus, like, obviously, because I had a look on the website, and I think there's certainly a lot more on offer than there was 20 years ago when I first started looking. I take it most of the students that come to you are from Auckland, or do people come from around the country and move there and study, or is that a thing that happens?
So we do have, because of that change to technology facilitated education, which I think was around 2014, where basically Wellpark brought in what we're using now, pretty much like Zoom, some equivalent of Zoom, and some smart panels from which basically students could, or through which students could basically stream into the classroom. Okay. So what was offered from 2014 on is something what we call mixed mode. So meaning that you can either be on campus as a student or off campus streaming into a live session. So this is really the importance, that we are placing a lot of value on the actual kind of interaction in the classroom. So meaning simultaneous education. So yeah, so looking back since I kind of came into the role, I would say there is definitely quite a few that come from outside of Auckland. So normally we do a little kind of icebreaker exercise as far as down from the Dunedin area, as far up north. We had people from Whangarei. Okay. And so this is pretty much possible for students to choose to be off or on campus for the first 2 years of the 3 years. However, they then will need to relocate or find some kind of, agreement or arrangement that works for them so that they can be on campus for their entire year 3 studies, because of that supervised clinic component in particular, and that kind of very much integrated teaching and learning that we really aim for in that year.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds really good. So Patrice, did you study when it was on the Greyland campus? And then
I did. Yeah, I did. But we were the first ever year to be on the new premise in the clinic. So I had all my classes in Greyland, and then in our 3rd year we came over to Albany just for the clinic. And so that was newly opened, really, really nice clinic facility. So I had a mix of both, but mostly at Greyland.
So you would be in a really good position to have seen the growth that's happened at Wellpark, and even just within the last few years, eh?
Yeah, absolutely.
So from a qualification perspective, what is it that, like, you do the Bachelor of Naturopathy and Herbal Medicine? Is that a 3-year or a 4-year degree?
It's currently a 3-year program. Yeah. So we upgraded, as you may be aware, that back in the days when I came through and when you would have done your inquiries, Wellpark actually offered a diploma level. Yeah. So it was a 3-year program, but it was a diploma level. And at the time, you could also either study the herbal medicine or the naturopathy, and then you could do some upgrading and gain, a dual qualification. Yeah. So that has changed, which is really pleasing to see, particularly from me having been a student at Wellpark at diploma level, and then becoming aware and program leader at the time of degree level, and the changes that have occurred. So that's where we sit in the 3 years. And, there is obviously, as you're aware, with the discussion in terms of to standardize and lift the quality of health practitioner education. It's pretty much how we see us, as a health profession that works integral with other health professionals, and therefore to be on par. We always say it's not enough. It's not enough time.
It's such a tough ask, though, because, having sat on the board for a couple of years and listened to Jill, who does all our political and education stuff and international things, and just generally what we're trying to achieve is a higher standard of graduate, so both in knowledge and as a practitioner, but also by doing so it increases the level of professionalism within the industry, and actually encouraging our members, and as you would probably do through your college, to hold their heads high with the standard of knowledge that they have. And I think, Patrice, you were talking about what you tutor, and what was it? Was it research? What was the one of the ones that you tutor in?
Research and critical thinking.
That just wasn't even on the radar when I started studying. That's not even, and it's come up quite a lot that a lot of these this is going on within the education that I think people outside the industry probably are completely unaware. Would that be a fair comment?
Yeah, likely. I mean, there's people outside of the industry that are completely unaware of a lot of facets of what naturopathy is and what naturopaths do.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. And I have spent a lot of time explaining to people what I do, what naturopathy is, and that it is an evidence-based practice.
Yeah.
So that research and critical thinking paper, that's in the first year, but that kind of stream goes through all 3 years. So in the second year, they start evidence-based practice, and then in the third year, they do another evidence-based practice course where they actually end up writing a case report by the end of it. So it's well integrated throughout the degree, but also in all of the other courses as well. So Wellpark has got quite a high expectation of their students to be evidence-based practitioners and to be integrating research, critical thinking, and across all of the subjects.
Yeah, I think it's a vital part of education. And I think certainly with the case studies, because one of the things that we do, we didn't manage to get it off the ground the last couple of years, but we do a student award for the case presentation, which I think we're now, it's all open and ready to kind of take on board again for next year. And I think it's really important to recognise those top students and also present them to our membership, because we have such a depth of experience in the membership. We've got naturopaths who have been around for a very, very long time, who maybe aren't practicing anymore, but are still involved on the fringes of the organisation, and through to those that are recently graduating. And it's just, I think, kind of keeping that level of awareness there. It's a way of our organisation supporting the colleges, and the colleges then feeding into our organisation as well. Do you with your students, like, do you regard yourselves as supporting them vocationally, so with a pathway once they graduate, or is that something that the students then are kind of on their own to work out what they want to do at the end of the course, or how do you handle that?
So maybe if I was speaking, to acknowledge, that's probably something we have identified that this is very much needed, in terms of coming from graduates, but also from students, being well aware of how difficult it may be, particularly in the first year of being on your own, with naturopathy, still being one of the professions where you are, a big proportion is self-employed. So we definitely acknowledge the need, but we currently don't have quite a pathway in place yet, something we always talk about and something we would like to have, to engage more with alumni. And as part of this, to definitely have a mentoring program. So yeah, definitely something we would love to have, but it's definitely, it would take quite a bit of curating and working through and resourcing. That is obviously one of the things.
They do take quite a while to establish as well, because you've got to get buy-in from your alumni, from the current students, from those of us that are sort of sitting out here in the field. Is that a conversation that you have with your students, Patrice, as well? Is that something that comes up
in terms of
just
mentorship afterwards, or pathways?
Just the vocational pathways more than anything else. Yeah.
I mean, it does come up, and more so with those kind of third year students who are then, feeling like, what am I going to do after this? Where is this going to go? And a lot of them are thinking about going into clinical practice, but I would say there is an amount of students there that are thinking about, what if I don't want to do clinical practice, and what are the options, and what direction can I go in, and is there postgraduate studies? There is a lot of talk from the students around, postgraduate opportunities and study as well. So there's interest there from students to either continue studying.
The postgraduate is a whole other conversation, really, isn't it? Because it's something that New Zealand is pretty much lacking in any way of. I think it's not so bad for the bachelor qualified students. At least you can then kind of potentially go on and do something at a university, but it's a lot harder for those of us that qualified earlier. And the other thing I just also wanted to mention was one of the things that the NMHNZ has done this year. One of the women has created the student mentor group through Facebook. The graduate mentor group. I keep calling it the student mentor group. It's not a student mentor group. It's a graduate mentor group. And it's proving to be really, really popular. So it's definitely something that I think we can engage with the college and actually really get the students aware that this is happening in the background to support them as a way of encouraging them to join. And I think, as long as they're graduating like this year, they can still join that and get the benefit of what's happening in the background there. I don't actually have any other notes on my little bit of paper in front of me, other than just wanted to say thanks very much for coming along. It's actually been really nice to meet you both on, instead of just chatting in the via email, which is not always the most efficient thing.
Yeah, likewise.
It's just everything gets lost in translation. Then sometimes you don't answer the email for a few days and you're like, oh crikey, I completely forgot to respond. So we've had a little bit of toing and froing over various things, but we will get there eventually. So just a reminder to everyone that's watching, so this, I think, I can't remember which date we're releasing this one on. It's towards the end of the week. I think it's on the Friday. Reminder about the open day at Wellpark on the 15th of October. If you're interested in becoming a naturopath and you want to go and check out their new campus in Albany, which I will endeavour to do in November when I'm up there, I highly encourage it. Obviously, I really love what I do, and certainly with the standard of education that we're seeing out there, I think there is a lot of scope for us in the future. Yeah. So do either of you want to make a closing comment at all? Or
Patrice, I've talked quite a bit. Would you like?
Just thank you, Deborah. It's been really nice to connect in and be part of this Naturopathic Medicine Week, which is been running for a few years now, and really
I think
awesome.
This is about our 3rd or 4th year doing it.
Yeah.
So I've kind of stepped in at the last minute for Jess because she's off having a baby, but it's a bit inconvenient, but that's how it goes. So I'm just going to, I'll just get you guys to sit there for a bit. I'm just going to stop the recording and then we'll have a quick chat after. So thanks. Oh, I just also want to say to those that are watching, just a reminder that there's events happening throughout the week. Check out the website, naturopathicmedicineweek.co.nz for recipes. If you do have any questions for either Sandra or Patrice, you can email deborah@nourish.co.nz or events@naturopath.org.nz, and we will find a way, or you can jump over to wellpark.ac.nz, the website, and check it out for yourselves.